Yo, yo, yo! What's up, you guys? Welcome back to the Men Underground Music Show. I am Mint, and yeah, let's get into this. You know, one of the things I'm probably going to start doing, because as I continue to move on in this process of um, recording, journaling, vlogging, whatever you want to call it, my music collection, there's going to be some changes along the way. I might have to start slowing this down and focusing album by album, but also starting not only in the front but the back, sometimes in the middle. I think I'm gonna start bouncing around on some of these. I'm going to continue to go in the flow in the direction from the beginning, but spotlighting some other things in my collection as I go. You know what I mean? Um, Also, I'm going to start filling in on some of the things that I collect on a monthly basis, some things that I got in the mail, and probably starting to reach out to other people to show and spotlight their collections as well. Without further ado, let's get into our next artist, or I should say group, that we're moving in. We're still in the number twos and the twos, and I'm just going to go ahead and talk about a group that's hailing from the east side of Compton, California. They have associations with AMG, High C, and DJ Quik. Without further ado, we're going to get into Second to None and their self-titled album. Second to None, as stated before, hails out of the east side of Compton. They're affiliated with the Elm Street Pyrus out of the east side. This is their first album that came out in 1991 on Profile Records. Features a lot of production from themselves and David Blake, aka DJ Quik. Now, Second to None consists of cousins. Their cousins is Dion Bennett, aka Gangsta D or The D, and KK, aka Kelton McDonald. Moving on, once again, this came out in 1991 on Profile Records, and I believe it has 13 or 14 tracks. It has 14 tracks on here. This is definitely an album that you want to have in your collection. This is an original copy on Profile Records. The Profile Records version, not the Arista slash Profile Records version, but the original will have the catalog number of PCD 1416. Now, Arista would later re-release this and buy out the Profile Record catalog. So when it comes to DJ Quicks, AMG, or anybody who was there, I don't think AMG was signed to Arista, but I might be wrong. I have to review that later. But yeah, man, they took over, bought the album, bought out their catalog, and started putting stuff out. I want to say in the early 2000s, late 90s, and so for like that. Now the disc looks like this. Now in the artwork, you're going to see KK on the right side of the tracks and in the front, and his cousin Gangsta D, aka the D, with the D hat in the back. On the cover, you'll see KK with the KK on the top of his hat and Gangsta D in the back. Now, this is a dope album. Um, I've always liked this album. I don't own any other releases. They've had albums after that. There was an album that was supposed to come out on Death Row called the Sugar Honey Iced Tea, the SHIT. I don't remember when that came out, and there's a few other albums that they have. But this is the only album that I actually own by Second to None. Now, KK has a deeper, raspier voice, and the Gangsta D, the D, has a more high tone voice, high pitched voice, and so forth like that. They are actually first cousins, though. They're actually related, not any of that stuff, fake stuff or anything like that. Now let's get into the track list. The track list, the 14 track list is intro, More Than a Player, If You Want It, Be True to Yourself, Let the Rhythm Take You, Coming Like This, Underground Terror, Just Ain't Me, The Life of a Player, Ain't Nothing Wrong, What Goes Up, Mystic, Punk Mother Effers, and N-Words, Tripping. So let's get into the songs that I'm actually into or that I like. And then I'll tell you later on which ones I feel are their best tracks, me personally, in my opinion. If you guys don't like it, write that below. So More Than a Player is one of those albums. That's track number 2. To me, I like this album and so forth. It reminds me of the early NWA days. To me, it feels like since NWA probably was their predecessors, Eazy-E, Ruthless Records was the predecessors, they sort of followed up in the likeness of that. I also feel that way about DJ Quik's first album as well. Drawing a blank on the actual cut, but although this has production by DJ Quik, if you look at or listen to any interviews, DJ Quik will tell you that second to none, KK and Gangsta D already had the sound, especially KK already had the sound they were looking for. He just put it together for them because they didn't know, they were producing, but they didn't know how to make the tracks fit and how to, make things work. So they have a co-production with DJ Quik. And I think this is the sound that they were going for on More Than a Player. Probably was highly influenced by NWA at that time and Eazy-E. Now, the other song that I want to get into is track 3. In track 3, it's titled If You Want It. Oh, going back to More Than a Player. More Than a Player contains a sample by Al Green's Love and Happiness. So if you're trying to place where they got that sample from, it's Al Green's Love and Happiness. Now, going back to track 3, If You Want It. If You Want It is probably one of my favorite tracks on this album. If you want it, baby, I got it. If you need it, then baby, I feed it. If you want it. Anyhow, it's one of my songs that I like. They also have a video for that track. Go check that out. Might post it in here, but we'll see. Now, it contains a sample by one of my pops, rest in peace, favorite artists, a.k.a. Black Moses, real name, Isaac Hayes, out of Memphis. The song was sampled by Isaac Hayes, and I want to say it belongs to Hung Up on My Baby. You might want to go check that track out too for this, but it's a cool song. Doom 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 doom. If you want it. Now another group that sampled that same beat is the Ghetto Boys from My Mind's Playing Tricks on Me. So if you guys are familiar with that, go check it out. It's a good one to go talk about. Now, another song, I'm going to skip track 4. Track 4 is all right. I don't think they really have any totally bad songs, but some songs stick out more than others, and some are just, So we're going to go to track 5. Track 5, Let the Rhythm Take You. Let the rhythm take you. Let the rhythm take you. Great song. Really felt that laid back. That's more of a DJ Quik sound to me personally. If you're used to that DJ Quik, like smoothed out jazz type of melody, G-funk thing, then you'll like that track as well. Another track that I'm gonna that I like, which was produced by Second to None, DJ Quik talks about the interview. Specifically, KK made that beat, but he put it together, and that would be track number 10. Ain't Nothing Wrong. Now, Ain't Nothing Wrong contains a sample by KC and the Sunshine Band. And it's has the same, the KC and the Sunshine band's song is actually titled Ain't Nothing Wrong as well. Go check that one out. Dope track. It's one of my one of my better songs, one of the better songs. I don't know if it would be my top songs, but I would say definitely the previous one that I talked about, track number 5, If You Want It, is definitely up there. Another one, I will skip from 5 to 10 for me personally. Ain't Nothing, I already talked about Ain't Nothing Wrong. And then after Ain't Nothing Wrong, I will go to immediately to 11. Now for me, the back end of this self-titled album, Second to None, picks up to me more so at the back end than it does at the front end. So with that being said, like track 11 is What Goes Up. What Goes Up Must Come Down, which was sampled by the Spinning Wheels, Blood, Sweat, and Tears. And that will be the chorus, but the beat, the rhythm, and everything else comes from James Brown, none other than the Godfather of Soul, James Brown. I want to say that the James Brown song, if I can remember, is called Your Love. Go check it out. That's another good one, but they had a video for that album, for that song as well, What Goes Up. And I believe that might have been their first release now that I'm thinking about it. What Goes Up, I think it was probably their first one. Their first release, their first video release. I might be wrong. They have a video for Let the Rhythm Take You too, so go and check that one out. But I think What Goes Up might be their first, my first introduction, might be their first video. I could be wrong. It's been a long time. 1991? Psh. Bro, I was 16 years old, so I can't really remember all the way that well, but yeah. Going on to the next track, track 12. Track 12, Mystic. Mystic has a dope sample. You might not be familiar with it, but it's by Bobby Humphries. Bobby Humphries, My Little Girl. It's a jazz track that was sampled, and I want to say, because I know his sound, that's definitely a DJ Quik production. Bobby Humphries, My Little Girl, I want to say came out on, what's the jazz label? Give me a minute, it'll come back to me. But it's a dope dope sample and so forth like that. And the Bobby Humphrey My Little Girl was dedicated to her, but Mystic is a more sexualized song talking about girls, telling stories about girls that they met, and I wonder if I remember correct, because it's been a while since I listened to this album. The D goes first, if I remember, and he talks about a girl, and then KK goes about the girl, and then they're talking about the same girl, and they decided to run a choo-choo basically on her since they found out they were messing with the same girl. They said, hey, we might as well make a party of this. This was during the era of hip-hop where it was very common for people to talking about running choo-choos on girls, trains on girls, or things like that. Things that are sort of looked down upon today or frowned upon today as more taboo, some type of moray. But that's what their topics were. If they weren't talking about sex on some player stuff, or, it was more always, a lot of their topics were sexualized or gangbanging and so forth. So, for example, like, even though the introduction track was there, it had a verse on there. I want to say it was both of them. But I want to say the D more so was talking about where they were from without saying it, Peru and that they're Elm Street and so forth. And I don't know if they went at, because they mentioned something about the block. And the only person I could think of on the east side that would be their foes or the opposition at that time would have been Santana block, Compton Crips. But they didn't say it specifically. But what you need to know is some of these tracks on here and some of the tracks on DJ Quik's first album came from their red tape, which is known as a gangbanging tape and so forth, which put them on the map. And the next track is track 13, Punk Mother Effers. It samples Millie Jackson, All the Way Lover. That's a very good track as well. Go check her out. Millie Jackson she's a legend, man. If you don't really know about her, get up on it. Punk MFers is really talking about, I want to say it's the first story was about a friend that set up a friend. Both, matter of fact, probably was, or is basically talking about their friends who set up friends, and also friends when the friend died who didn't show up and support the family and stuff like that. And they're calling them punk MFers, so forth. And it tells some stories about it. It's more on a gangbang, more on some hood stuff that they're talking about. Go check it out. That's a good song. I do remember that one. That stuck out. The last track is, so yeah, that's 10, 11, 12, 13. Now we're on track 14, the last track. N-Words Trippin'. And N-Words Trippin', to me, this is like the equivalent of Marley Marr's The Symphony, almost, but not really. And what I mean is it's more like a group track. This is the only song that I believe has features on it, and it features AMG, DJ Quik, and High C, which they were all a crew. You know what I'm saying? DJ Quik and High C are both from, I want to say, Treetop Pyru. And AMG, I don't think he's anything, but I don't even think he's from Compton. But they met through a mutual friend, I want to say. DJ Quik was telling a story where he met AMG through a guy by the name of Gritty Gray. Go check him out. But yeah, that's their crew. So I want to say that N-Words Trippin' is really like their posse cut, if you'll say. You know what I mean? That's what I mean. It's nothing like the Symphony, but in a sense, outside of, you know, it being a posse cut type of song. So go check it out. You know, this album is definitely, I would consider it like an early G-Funk, but it's in the transition of, like, if you remember Dr. Dre's sound when he was with NWA, it's sort of like that, but on the cusp of what Dr. Dre came during the G-Funk time when he left NWA and got with Death Row, Suge Knight, the DOC, and started this whole death thing that we know as Death Row now with Snoop Dogg and others, right? So it's sort of like that early 90s sound, is how I would explain this Second to None self-titled project. So it sort of like has an NWA feel, an early DJ Quik feel, where he's figuring out who he is as a producer, or continuing who he is as a producer, I should more than likely say, and that early like Death Row feel. The reason why I probably say an early Death Row feel is because if you don't know, DJ Quik was involved with Death Row early on, and so was Second to None. You know what I mean? They were not signed to Death Row Records, but they were involved in a lot of projects from the early days of Death Row. I would say probably more around 94, 95. And I say Death Row was coming to the public about around this time, 91. So that's why I would say they have similar sounds. But then it's a Compton type of thing. You know what I'm saying? No pun intended with Compton's Most Wanted, which we know at that time was beefing with DJ Quik and Second to None. However, I'm just trying to give you a gauge of the sound of this self-titled album. Now, with that being said, let's go into, this is my only album that I have by them, the self-titled Second to None album. However, I do have Second to None's I Didn't Mean to Turn You On. Second to None's I Didn't Mean to Turn You On came out and was a track number 5 on the Above the Rim soundtrack. So it was track number 5 on the Above the Rim soundtrack. And This version, this cassette single for Second to None, I didn't mean to turn you on, was put out on Profile Records. However, there's a promo version of this that comes out on Death Row Records / Interscope Records. This is their release that came out on Profile Records, but on the back it will say from the Above the Rim soundtrack in the lower left corner, which is your right. So yeah, you'll see, this song first appeared on in 1994 on the Above the Rim soundtrack. At this time, that was the transition from their self-titled album that I just went through, and when they were joining forces with Suge Knight and Death Row Records, and it appeared on a very dope soundtrack for Above the Rim. There were so many great songs on that Above the Rim, like Pain by Tupac. Sorry, there's so many I could keep going, but that's a dope soundtrack. When I'm recording, sometimes it's real hard for me to recall things instantaneously and so forth like that. But yeah, man, real good soundtrack. Now, getting back to this, didn't mean to turn you on. There's 3 tracks on here. The 3 track, it's the same track but 3 different versions. You have the radio version, you have the actual original version, and the instrumental. Now, if you go to the promo version, I don't have it, but I seen it, and there's a reason why I don't own it. This one says radio version, and the promo version, which is Death Row Records / Interscope, will say, instead of radio version, it'll say clean version. It's the same version though. They're both 3 tracks, same thing. So I didn't feel like doubling up, but I might just do it just to have the other side of this. But right now I don't own it. Going on back to this, KK and Gangsta D, didn't mean to turn you on. They came out with a video for that, but for some reason why they stopped showing that video. I don't know what the backstory is behind it or anything like that. Maybe KK or Gangsta D could talk about that. I don't know what happened, but it was one of those dope tracks that I played, me and the homies played, used to bump it, the ladies used to like it, and everything else. You know what I'm saying? So, very good and dope CD single. All right, now let's rate both of these albums. Going back to the Second to None self-titled album, if I were to grade this on the sliding scale of based on then versus now, then I'm not going to lie. When this album first came out, there were songs that I liked more than others, and this was a good time for music. And when I was comparing it to NWA, which I was, and other things, I didn't give it as much respect, especially for the artists coming out of Compton. So back then, I probably would have said that this was like a mid-range, 6, 7. You know what I mean? It had some songs on there and stuff like that, but I was more into the gangster elements and so forth more than the, appealing to the women or the pimp player stuff and all that. It's not that I didn't like it, it's just where I was at in the mind frame. So I would have gave it about a 6, 7. In hindsight, though, where I'm at right now, and I go back and I listen to it or I reminisce upon a time, this album was actually better. It's better to me now. Like, it aged better than a lot of tracks. So I'm going to raise the scale and give it about an 8. An 8. I'm going to give it an 8. Now, out of this, what did I like? I had 2, 5, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. So that's 7 tracks out of 14. So half of the tracks I really will bump today. And the other half, they're okay. I could probably still listen to them and stuff like that. So today, I think an 8 is a great score. And the reason why I went up, there's a lot of albums that I go back and listen to. It's like, have you guys ever went back and watched the movie Scarface? I used to love that movie when I was a kid. Try showing your kids that movie right now. You know what I mean? I used to love the movie Exorcist as a kid. Try showing your kids that movie right now. You will be just as disappointed as your kids are in those old movies. And sometimes what I'm saying is things that I thought were classic don't age too well. And then there's some things that you got much more respect for later. Like I said, 6, 7 at this for this one back in the days. But today, it actually held up very well. So I'm gonna give it an 8. I'm gonna give it a solid 8. You know, a solid 8. And if you have the original with the catalog number of PCD 1416, kudos to you. Now, on a personal note, if you guys happen to have this in a long box format, get at me. I'll pay you. All right? Now, let's move on to Second and None's Didn't Mean to Turn You On. If I just had to rate this CD single by itself, it's a solid. Man, I still love that song. I still love the song. Even though it's not the gangsters thing. At this time, actually, my brain had already changed from gangster. And that's 3 years later. This came out in 1991. This one came out in 1994. Within that 3 years, my mind had changed. I was already active in the streets, active in gang stuff. I needed something different. I needed something more mellow. My mind and temperament was changing. I'm going to give this, it's not perfect, but I'm going to give it a 9. Now, back in the days when it first came out, it was a 9. So I'm going to say solid 9. Solid 9. It's not a 10, but it's a 9. This thing is still fire. I could put it on. There's only one thing that I wish they would have did on this CD single. I wish they would have went to Quik and came up with a remix or something. I would have really liked a remix for this song. Because I loved the lyrics. I loved everything that were going on there. I just want more, a totally different sound, a B-side, what have you. Because during this time, this was a time where you could, like Ice Cube had bootlegs and B-sides. I think they could have did something like that with this. It's a dope album. I have no complaints about, I shouldn't say album, it's a dope CD single. But both their full-length album from 1991 and this CD single, they're 8 and a 9. That makes me feel like I need to go and buy the rest of their catalog. I might just start doing that. You know what I mean? I feel like in hindsight, I slept on the group and so forth. So, you know what I mean? And I'm going to tell you why I probably slept on the group. I'm a little biased. They were down with DJ Quik. And if you're from Denver, Colorado, you'll know the story about Denver, Colorado and DJ Quik. I think I was blinded by my anger and resentment towards DJ Quik for dissing my hometown and not telling the truth about a situation or telling the full story about the situation that he dealt with when out here. And I think I probably took it, I just wasn't with him. Excuse me. I wasn't messing with him, And now in hindsight, I look back on my own willful ignorance and saying, I should have given it a chance. This album was a lot better than what I gave them. You know what I mean? This album was a lot better. And them as artists, KK and Gangsta D, the D, they're good rappers, man. They got some good production. I learned a lot. The fact that DJ Quik says they had all their ideas as far as the sound goes, he just made it happen. He put it together. He would formulate that. You know what I mean? And so I have an even more deeper respect, knowing that, learning that, listening to interviews and, getting more insight. But yeah, I just got to have a moment of clarity. I slept on them. Don't sleep on them, okay? Don't sleep on them. We get mad at people or we hold grudges, resentments, as I was talking about. And you might be blocking your blessings. In this case, I was blocking my blessings of enjoying the album to its fullest. That's probably another reason why back then, when I was listening to it, I didn't like it. And then today, I'm like, man, that was a good album. That was a good album. I wouldn't listen to High C back in the days. You know what I mean? I wouldn't listen to AMG back in the days just because of that one thing. You know what I mean? So I was biased and yeah, just a moment of clarity. You know, ain't nothing wrong with being truthful, you guys. So if you guys start doing your own journaling and things like that, be honest. I'm being honest. This is a good album. So thank you guys for tuning in to the Men Underground Music Show. I'm Mint. Please remember to like, share, subscribe, and most of all, comment. Tell me what you guys think about the Second to None album. What did I miss? What did I misinterpret? Put that below. I look forward to seeing you on our next episode, episode 15. Until then, I am Mint, 2 Stokes, and I'm out.